So 8 days ago I gave birth to my baby girl. It was my second home birth and I want to share the story. So 8 days ago I had a beautiful positive home birth at home with my third child. It was my second VBAC home birth and I wanted to share the story just to spread awareness about home births and give a positive insight into them as well. So she was born on a Thursday morning at 9:10, and all day Wednesday I was getting regular period cramp pains. So I was thinking, okay, this could be something. She was already 6 days overdue, so I was sort of waiting and thinking, when's she going to arrive? But yeah, being patient at the same time. And yeah, so by the evening, that Wednesday evening, we'd put our two boys to bed, things were getting more relaxed, and I would say probably at about 11 PM is when things vamped up a little bit, and it wasn't just period pain cramps, it was a little bit more intense, but manageable. I could breathe through. My husband was sleeping and I wanted him to get as much rest as possible, and I was trying to lie down to get some rest as well. I thought that's the best thing to do, is try and get some sleep before, you know, the intense marathon ahead of birth. But when I was lying down, like originally she was in a really good position, head down, straight down her body, like I could feel she was down. But when I was like in bed, it was making her shift around, so that kind of was uncomfortable, and I was also a bit worried that maybe I should, you know, get up and use gravity. So I think around 1 AM I did wake up my husband because it was getting a little bit more uncomfortable now, and I was like, look, I think things are happening. So we were in the room for a little bit, and then I was like, okay, I think I'm gonna have a bath just to like relax and help get through this. And meanwhile my husband went downstairs to this room that we're in right now to set it up for the home birth. So I had my bath and that was really nice. I was just breathing through those contractions. When I came down, because we were still sort of setting up things, we didn't blow up the pool yet, but we were just getting things organised. I think things did slow down a little bit then. I was like, oh, I hope this is not false labour, like we've got everything ready and then nothing's happening, like the contractions calmed down a little bit. And it's interesting because that sort of happened with my other home birth as well, where when the midwives arrived, I was having these intense contractions and all of a sudden they just stopped. I think it's just that sense of safety. I don't know, but then in no time, once everything was like set up, I had my lights on, had the clary sage oil, you know, diffusing, and lovely music in the background, hypnobirthing visualizations, various different tracks I had. And then, yeah, the contractions picked up again and they were getting intense. I wasn't in active labour, I felt like, so I didn't feel like I needed to call the team yet, the home birth team. But I think probably around 6 AM it was vamping up. I think we called the home birth team at closer to 7 AM because they arrived at 8, and they were 40 minutes away then. So there was a point, I remember there was a point where I turned to my husband and I said, look, can you get that birthing pool blown up? Because I was using my birthing comb and my breathing techniques, like the out breath really helped, but there was a point where I was like, right, I need something more, I need the water. And that's when we rang the home birth team whilst the pool was just being set up and blown up, and we told them and they said there'll be about 40 minutes, and that was fine. It wasn't like that we urgently needed them there, but obviously we needed to let them know things were happening. Meanwhile my kids had woken up by this point as well. I think they could hear things going on, so it was a little bit like my husband had to keep going up to one of my youngest actually whilst I was in labour, but my mum arrived in the morning, she had them next door, so I could hear that they were awake. And yeah, I was in the pool just breathing through, you know, it's so intense, like I was using my breath going in, and it's that middle bit of the contraction that's the most intense bit for me. But I kept telling myself it's 1 minute, so I'll breathe in and that beginning bit's okay, and then it's just that intense middle part of the contraction where you feel like, oh, everything is going to leave your body, but then it comes back down. And yeah, I was just going through it, using the water to help me, and then the midwives arrived at 8 AM. And they could see I was in active labour at this point. They didn't intervene, they just did their checks. They told us that the water was a bit too hot, so my husband added in some cold water, which is true, I think it was quite hot. And yeah, it was beautiful. I was just really, I needed to like hold my birthing comb and also hold my husband's hand during the contraction, and I don't know, I was probably squeezing it to death. But I got through, and I remember at one point, probably close to 8 AM, my kids were still here, they were waiting for my dad to pick them up to go, and that was sort of on my mind a little bit. And and I felt like things were starting to bear down, like I felt this need to go to the toilet. But it was weird, I felt like I needed a wee and a poo, like I was getting pressure from both sides, and it was really like, I was even trying to do it in the pool, so I didn't need to get out of the pool and go to the toilet, but I couldn't, it wasn't, I was doing like pushing style movements, but it just, yeah, nothing was happening, nothing was getting released. But I just kept breathing through the contractions, and I remember at one point, I remember saying like, I'm scared, because my body, out of my control, just started pushing. Like from both ends, just pushing down, like this really, like almost like a vacuum, like it was really intense. And I remember thinking like, this is scary. And the midwife was like, what's up? Like, why are you scared? I said, my body is pushing. She said, you can either go with it or breathe it away. So I remember doing a, and it just breathed away. I think if I'd have just let it be, the baby would have been born, and she probably would have been born in the water there and then, but I just didn't feel quite comfortable for some reason. I think I wanted to get up and go to the toilet, because I was still convinced it was probably a number 2 or something, or number 1. Once I think my dad, the kids were collected about 8:30, so I finally got out the pool. That bit was really hard, because I was in a comfortable zone in the water, and to get out I felt a bit worried. I was like, oh, how is that going to feel? Is it going to be good or bad? But I pushed myself to do it. I thought, right, let's go to the toilet. So I got out of the pool and walked to the toilet. I kid you not, as soon as I got to the toilet, sat on the toilet, and my body just pushed, and there I could feel the head was coming. The head was right there. I was like, she's coming, I can feel her coming. I screamed for the midwives, I was like, come back. They were actually waiting for another midwife to arrive, because they said they've called another midwife just because of my previous C-section, just to be on the safe side. But that lady hadn't even arrived yet, and they were like, oh my gosh, they could see the head, and they said, look Sabrina, can you get onto your all fours off the toilet, otherwise this baby might be born on the toilet. I didn't feel like I could, but I just pushed myself to get onto my all fours. Her head came out, and then in the next contraction her body came out, 9:10, and it was done. Like, the most amazing experience. I remember vividly the experience of her coming out and that release, like, because I was so heavy at that point. I checked the scales, and before and after I'd lost 5 kg from just giving birth. I think my whole tummy and all the fluids and the baby itself was about 5 kilograms. It was so much, so the pressure of like just her coming out, it just felt so good. I caught her, but I was shaking. I was a bit in shock, like I couldn't believe what had gone on, like what was going on. And so I got my husband to hold her, placenta still in me, cord obviously hanging out, and I remember like we had to walk from the toilet back to the front room where we are now, and like the midwives were like, be careful the cord, and we're just waddling, like he's holding baby, I'm connected to the cord. Oh my gosh, it was insane, but just so beautiful. I came, arrived to the sofa, had my skin to skin, and it was perfect. No interventions, no stress, no strain. I had a really minor tear. She even said that it wouldn't need to be stitched, but because it was bleeding, just to be on the safe side, she did stitch it. But yeah, it was beautiful, and yeah, the most intense experience ever. But that's birth in general. That's nothing to do with the home birth. But it was swift, it was calm, and yeah, that's my story. I just wanted to share it to add to the collection of beautiful birth stories out there, and especially the ones that are happening at home, just to normalise that concept of giving birth at home. I know it's not possible for everyone, but you know, I had a C-section prior to this, and then I had a home birth, and now this is my 3rd birth and 2nd birth at home. So yeah, just want to spread that message that it's definitely possible to do it even after a C-section. That's my VBAC home birth story. Thank you for listening.